to the February 2nd, 2022 workshop of the Oceanside City Council. I'd like to call this meeting to order and ask for roll call, please.
Mayor Sanchez.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Kime.
Here.
Councilmember Jensen. Here. Councilmember Rodriguez.
Here.
Councilmember Weiss. Here.
Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. And we do have one item for this workshop. And at the end, we will be also reserving time to listen to the public on items not on the agenda. For this workshop, it is basically on the selection of program options to include in the scope of work for the next solid waste collection and processing franchise agreement, and direction to staff to return with the final franchise agreement for approval. We're going to begin with a report from not Colleen Foster, but Carrie Dale. Water Department Director, who has a presentation.
There we go.
That's now on the screen.
There it is. Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. Carrie Dale, Water Utilities Director. Very pleased to provide an update on the solid waste collection and processing agreement today. To my right are Colleen Foster, the city's environmental officer, as well as Rob Hilton with HF&H. Will all be available for questions should you have any. This is the outline of today's workshop. We'll be talking a little bit about what got us here through the evaluation process and council direction from last November, some of the program costs that have been negotiated up to this point. We'll also be asking for you to provide some direction to staff today on moving forward. Staff released a competitive RFP in December of 2020 due to the current agreement with Waste Management expiring at the end of 2023. The RFP was a competitive procurement process for state compliance with a variety of mandates. The one you're very familiar with and which we've been operating under for some time is AB 939. And recently, we've also had organics mandates SB 1383 and AB 1826 that have come into play. Staff received 2 complete proposals in response to this RFP and 1 organics processing proposal. These were received in March of 2021. And over the course of the summer and fall of 2021, staff and HF&H interviewed proposers, toured a multitude of facilities, as well as scored the proposals. Proposals and the evaluation committee's scoring were presented at a public workshop in November of 2021. At that workshop, City Council directed staff to conduct further negotiations with Waste Management, as well as to address minimum SB 1383 requirements. Staff was also directed to present a list of programs and costs for required SB 1383 and optional requirements, which we'll be talking about today. Negotiations were conducted in December of 2021 and January 2022. In total, there were 3 formal negotiation meetings. In addition to those formal meetings, HF&H had further phone calls throughout December and January to reconcile outstanding items with the negotiation. Now we'll be talking about the overview of services. This is a very complicated chart, but I'm going to try to go through it individually so that there's understanding of what's in here. The draft negotiated contract with Waste Management includes a base proposal of $37.298 million that's shown kind of in the middle of the chart at the top. And that covers existing services as well as additional services that relate to SB 1383 compliance. In total, it's a 35% increase over current rates. The base proposal includes commercial, multifamily, and residential collection services for landfill recycling, as well as organics. As shown in dark blue, the services for public right-of-way, illegal dumping, infrastructure maintenance, and compost giveaway are costed as follows. There are 3 components that are no costs, or they're included in the base rate, and those include collection and processing at large events, containers for illegal dumping, as well as cart cleaning and exchange. So those are existing services. There's no additional cost to keep them in the contract. There is a small cost associated with the compost and mulch giveaway. That is a penny on the residential rate. Coordination of curbside donation and landfill weeks is 7 cents on the residential rate. And we've included the rate increase as well as the percent increase in the table. The $37.298 million is a 10-year base rate. The cost to a residential customer with a 96-gallon service would be $31.24. In response to customer requests, litter and nuisance issues in the city, as well as SB 1383, the city requested proposers provide costs for additional services, including the following, as shown in teal in the table. So these are additional service options. These include infrastructure at the San Luis Rey Water Reclamation Facility for food waste receiving. This adds 54 cents to the residential rate. Transition to contractor billing, currently being done by the city, and this is included in the base rate. Curbside pickup of household hazardous waste for seniors and ADA. This adds 4 cents to the base rate. Ongoing distribution of vacation kits, 19 cents increase, and textile donation and recycling at 23 cents per month. I went over these fairly quickly, but I will be going over each of these services in more detail in some of the later slides. At a 10-year contract, with the base rate and the additional services, the total amount would be $38.597 million. For a residential customer, this would equate to $32.32. Should the City Council move forward with approving a 15-year contract for all of those services, the amount would be $37.956 million, as shown in the table in the bottom middle. This is approximately a $641,000 savings over the 10-year term. After further negotiations with Waste Management, the city further lowered its original contract standards to find resolution on the following items. Insurance requirements and events of default have been reconciled and resolved by both parties. Liquidated damages have been agreed to by both parties and are lower than originally requested in the RFP. Contamination thresholds meet the city's required 20% threshold for residential recycling and organics. There was also agreement on a reduced standard for diversion of 40% of service volume, which deviates from the city's zero waste plan. Staff and HF&H also worked with Waste Management to find cost savings by using existing infrastructure, namely fleet, as well as containers. Although staff believed that use of existing fleet would be a significant cost savings, half of the current fleet will need to be replaced by 2024, which reduced the cost savings to approximately $100,000 annually. The remainder of the fleet will be replaced through the term of the agreement. Waste Management's updated proposal includes a cost savings of $400,000 annually, which is a decrease of approximately 1% in the rate, to use the existing containers while swapping out bins, carts, and labels upon service request or for new customers starting service. Additionally, Waste Management has committed to changing out commercial bins to be color and label compliant by 2023, but by the start of the next agreement in 2024. One of the most significant contracting issue is an organics processing agreement which conforms to the requirements of SB 1383. Outstanding issues have been largely resolved, although there remains some potentially critical deviations between the subcontracting agreement, the draft franchise agreement, and SB 1383 requirements. I just wanted to point out some of the items that are shown here on the slide. Those are food soiled paper examples, egg bites. You get those at Starbucks. I eat those a lot, but it's cardboard soiled with some egg, drinking containers. I believe the other one on the right is a paper plate with some fish on it, maybe a napkin with ketchup. Those are examples of things that need to be included and taken, received in to the organics processing agreement. The haulback of digestate, which would be digested at San Luis Rey, is also not included in the current agreement. Okay, I'm going to talk about what's included in the current agreement for existing and additional services, and also compare it to what is proposed in the new agreement. Under the current agreement for illegal dumping, the city currently has services for 40 city facilities as well as 523 city cans at a value of $1.3 million annually. Under the new agreement, there is no change to that service. Under the current agreement, quarterly cleanup event services happen, of course, 4 times a year. That's continuing. However, they will continue without waste management staffing, and it's approximately 5 staff members per event. Just hearing from my staff today on how challenging it was with the last cleanup event, there are some safety challenges with unloading and loading that present themselves by staff doing this work instead of someone that's trained to offload and load these types of materials. Under the current agreement, Waste Management provides containers and third-party crews to remove litter, illegal dumping, and debris. Under the new agreement, that's eliminated. It's about $175,000 value. Related to donation and landfill weeks, there's currently 3 large item landfill pickups per year and 3 e-waste pickups per year. That will be consolidated to 5 total large item and e-waste pickups per year. Under the current agreement, there is a biannual donation and landfill collection weeks for single-family and multifamily customers. Under the new agreement, there is no change to that service. I think one of the more challenging aspects of complying with SB 1383 is the procurement standard, which requires a city of our size to use over 8,000 tons of material per year. Currently, through the compost giveaway and city use of compost, we're able to use 2,000 to 4,000 tons per year, which is about 20% of the procurement target that is ahead of us in 2024. Fortunately, we're able to meet that procurement target by either using mulch or compost, which we currently do, or by producing power and gas, which we could do at the San Luis Rey Water Reclamation Facility by digesting the food material in digesters. Currently, that commercial food waste under the waste management contract goes to Orange County and is slurried and then goes to LA San for processing in a process similar to what we're proposing for the San Luis Rey plant. So other agencies are benefiting from that procurement standard. The procurement standard at San Luis Rey is essential to meeting the SB 1383 target. It adds about 62% to our procurement standard annually by digesting the food waste. We also get an additional percentage towards that target by producing energy or biogas at the facility. The picture there on the right is what that slurry looks like once it's ground up and had sorted through. As I mentioned, the haulback of digestate is not included in the sub-agreement with Agri-Service. This is a significant issue that we need contained in the agreement in order to meet this standard. The base agreement also contains the transition of billing to the contractor. This comes at no additional charge to the city, and it will be using the same amount of staffing and resources that are currently devoted to waste management billing staff. It has advantages to the city, most importantly, customer service calls regarding any sort of customer issue will be going to waste management and not to city staff. Currently, city staff takes in a lot of those calls, and there is a go-between to resolve customer service issues that have been quite impactful for Colleen's staff. Additional services that are optional include a vacation rental kit. These would educate tourists on proper sorting and recycling and mitigate tourism-generated litter. The cost would be included across the rates for all ratepayers. For the life of the agreement, the cost of the program is $224,000. And it's intended to mitigate contamination charges to rental properties and reduce citywide contamination that may increase processing costs. Our multifamily properties across the city will also receive the same kind of kit and outreach once per year, which is included in the base proposal. Service to vacation rentals would be provided at a higher frequency due to the higher turnover rate. Other additional services are curbside household hazardous waste pickup for seniors and ADA. Historically, this user class, including veterans, have had trouble going to the centralized location during household hazardous waste events. This service would provide a limited number of curbside slots for those who qualify to ensure that materials are properly disposed of instead of landfill. This service this cost is incorporated across all users. If it were to be only allocated to the user when they use the service, it would cost approximately $200 for a pickup. And another additional service is the textile donation and recycling service. Textiles are considered organic material under SB 1383. Staff did request this program for textile donation and recycling in the RFP, and due to the cost, staff is not recommending implementation of this program. It is approximately 23 cents per month on a residential bill. In comparing the fiscal impact of the current contract to the new contract, the SB 1383 fee of $750,000 under the current contract would increase to $815,000. The collector fee of 2.3 would be set at $2.1 million. The contract administration fee of a little over $1 million is being renamed to the solid waste programming fee and increased to 1.4. And the total received in 2020 is about 4.1 and anticipated is 4.3 under the new contract. The contractor will also reimburse the city $300,000 for the cost of negotiations upon signing of the contract. And the increase in total in the anticipated funding to the city is less than 5% total over the 5 years, so it's less than CPI adjustments. Very small table, but you may be able to see it better in the staff report. With this, the city has analyzed and has established a nexus to the cost and value of each of the transfers to the city that are presented in this table. The franchise fee amount was proposed in the RFP process and negotiated. Staff is asking for direction from City Council to select program options, which would be included in a scope of work for a finalized contract. Staff is asking to finalize that agreement, as well as return to council with a final agreement for approval. This is the summary of services that we would like direction on, absent the ones that have no additional charge. The cost for each of those is shown here in cost per year, the rate impact, as well as the impact to the customers for a 32-gallon cart, as well as a 96-gallon cart. Again, a summary of the services, which I'm happy to go over after we have questions. So thank you.
Thank you. Did staff have anything else to say before we go to the public? No, okay, so let's go ahead and begin. How many people do we have signed up to speak?
We have 7 members of the public wishing to speak on this item.
All right, let's begin.
Our first speaker is Richard Copeland, to be followed by Michael Salaya, be followed by Javera Periot. I apologize if I mispronounced that name.
Thank you. Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, and City staff, my name is Richard Copeland, and I'm the Vice President for Municipal Sales at Republic Services, based out of our headquarters in Phoenix, Arizona. I'll admit that we were quite surprised to see the change in direction that this council took last November, given the significance of the data and the value that was brought forward in favor of our proposal. We believe that the workshop became so focused on finding an affordable path for 1383 that the council was unable to really understand or significantly see the value that we could bring forward. So my colleagues and I are going to touch on that today, starting with minimal compliance to 1383. We offer that compliance using our locally based award-winning compost facility at the OTI complex down in Chula Vista. Now, your incumbent is offering a program in partnership with AgriService, but you should understand the likely risks that come with that. Minimum compliance with 1383 requires, as just touched on, food waste to be collected separately, including food, soiled paper, meat, and bones. But AgriService has been extremely vocal in this chamber that accepting those items in their process would not allow them to maintain the quality product that they offer today. And we respect that passion and their reluctance to deviate from their business model. Now, they've been steadfast on this issue for over a year, so any change in position in the past month is simply because they have an ultimatum. It's not based on their beliefs or their passions. So this means that the contract going forward is likely to be filled with friction and debate over what's acceptable versus what's compliant, as they struggle to balance their agreement and comply versus what they've passionately sought to defend. So to solve this riddle, Republic has a far better solution for all parties. We will leverage our OTI compost facility for 100% compliance on day one, but we will then commit to screen a portion of that material to meet the high standards that AgriService is seeking to maintain the quality of their product. And we will transload those tons back to AgriService so they can continue to do what they do so well in the community today, that includes the compost giveaways to your residents and your businesses. This approach completely removes the burden and the external pressures on agriservice to change their business model just to meet the state requirements, and instead it positions them as they should be, a continued and respected member of this community that is regarded for the quality product that they produce and the passion that they have to create it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Salaya, to be followed by Javera Periot, to be followed by Mark West.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. My name is Michael Salaya, and I am the Area Senior Manager for Municipal Sales for Republic Services. I also have the responsibility of all municipal partnerships in the Southwest, including this Oceanside RFP. I'm a former city manager, and so I have the utmost respect and unique perspective of the process and decisions that you're making today. I would like to take a moment to address the risks the city has taken between the two bidders. The November staff report showed that Republic Services outscored the incumbent in all categories that was evaluated by staff, representing the lowest risk to the city. Here are my 5 proof points. First, we were the lowest price of all price factors that were evaluated. We also scored higher on reference checks and technical proposals. We offered the best Senate Bill 1383 options and plans. We had the best implementation and transition access and scores, and we accepted all terms and conditions, including the liquidated damages. The incumbent did not. They took exceptions to 31 liquidated damage terms, which offers the city very little recourse or for a failure to comply. Now, as sitting in that seat there as your city manager is, these 31 exceptions, they are some big red flags, and there's no doubt. And as terms and liquidated damages are only leverage, you have a city to hold your hauler in compliance. What would you do with developers? What would you do with vendors that wanted to come to your city and do business, and they told you, we don't want to comply with your codes or your compliance? Even in the updated staff report for today's workshop, it says that the staff and the incumbent have come to an agreement on all liquidated damages, and they are reasonably mitigate risk. What does that mean? It means that there are still risks. What is an acceptable exception of mitigation? Why would you take this risk when Republic accepted all your terms and liquidated damages? So we offer the city the lowest risk and your highest leverage to hold us accountable. So from a standpoint of best value and the lowest risk, the results of the RFP process were not even close. So we ask that the council reconsider your decision to throw out our bid. We respectfully ask that you redirect staff to bring both Republic and the incumbent back to the table. That way we can provide a true side-by-side comparison of both the bidders using minimal compliance scope. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Javar Perliet. I'm the area president for Republic Services. I spoke with the council at the last workshop. I want to touch on 2 things real quick. One is environmental services and the relations to VMT. When we looked at VMT, we really put a pin in where all of the services would be rendered, where they would be picked up, where they would be taken. And when we looked at that, we know that here, obviously in California, VMT is really the standard in which we look at to judge environmental impact. When you look at the 2 proposals side by side, you will see that our proposal reduced VMT by 17 million miles. And don't just take our word for it. We went out and we've got a third-party expert to validate and do the analysis so that it could really be an unbiased side-by-side comparison. We think that number is pretty significant. I know I don't have to tell the council the benefits on road wear, emissions, safety, just having fewer vehicles on the road is just better for the community writ large. Second point I want to focus on a little bit is price. In the November 10th proposals, we were $500,000 less a year. multiply that by 10 years, $5 million, 7 years, 15 years, $7.5 million. We studied the revised proposals as they came out a couple of days ago, and we're still $500,000 less. All of the things that you want to a la carte and either take this or take that out, we've run them through our models, and we're still really confident that we offer the best value for the city. So in summary, we will offer a fully compliant 1383 program that continues to protect agri-service and allows that treasure for a local business to thrive. We'll be risk-free. We've accepted all the liquidated damages and other claims. We heard today that there were still some things that had to be negotiated, and if I'm reading between the lines, the city wasn't too happy with some of the terms that they were forced to accept. We will run 17 million fewer miles, as I discussed. And last thing is our price includes brand new capital. Nothing looks good like a brand new garbage truck and clean container. So our price that is $500,000 cheaper will also include all brand new capital for the city. Oceanside deserves better than what's been presented to it thus far. And so all we're asking for is to put us back in the game, look at the two companies and two proposals side by side, and give us an opportunity to win your business. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark West, to be followed by John Borman, to be followed by Scott Barnett.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. My name is Mark West, retired naval officer, former chair of Surf Riders San Diego, and a former Imperial Beach City Council member. As a former City Council member from a coastal city and an avid waterman, I have seen more than I can count how much the effects of climate change has really affected our communities, and I know you have seen it as well. Fires, droughts, reduced snowpack, and coastal erosion are having daily impacts on all of our communities and all of Californians. You guys have an amazing history, one that's full of agriculture, fishing, ocean adventure, and this beautiful beach that I surf pretty regularly. It is thriving, and I can be honest with you, this town has never looked better. It's beautiful. But we need to do everything in our power to protect it because our way of life is at jeopardy right now. That is why I have made 1383, the short-lived climate pollution reduction strategy, my crusade to ensure California communities embrace the legislation to its fullest extent. Oceanside, you have the opportunity right now to embrace it and do your part for climate change. Landfilling organic waste releases methane into the air. We all know this. And methane is 84% more potent than CO2. These GHG gas emissions are making droughts more severe and longer. For example, it is estimated in 2015 that the drought that hit our Central Valley, cost $2 billion to our state economy and over 20,000 jobs. I know agriculture is very important to your community. Regardless of what you think about climate change, the law is complicated, the law is required, and SB 1383 must be followed. And I can tell you as a former city council member, citizens don't like it when we don't follow the law. I would hope you choose a solution that embraces local business leaders that are embracing the rules and requirements of 1383, and one that is looked at in the state as really a leader on 1383. It takes advantage of a business that has local infrastructure. This local infrastructure provides critical jobs in San Diego County and also reduces the vehicles emitting GHGs on the highway. If you decide the opposite, you are essentially negating everything that you were trying to do with 1383. A key component of the VMT is making sure that you choose the right one that is really embracing environmental stewardship. The people who will be most affected by this in the future will be our kids and our grandkids and all the future people who call Oceanside home. Furthermore, you have done so much work to make Oceanside the jewel of North County. I'd hate for this all to go backwards. 1383 is not something that can be done by itself. It's going to take businesses and environmental groups to work together, like El Corazon composting facility. So thank you very much. I would hope that you pick the provider that is best for farmers, friends, and families in Oceanside. Thank you.
Thank you.
Honorable Mayor, council members, my name is John Borman. I'm a principal with Linscott Law in Greenspan. We're a local traffic engineering firm. Our office is at 4542 Ruffner here in San Diego. I'm a registered traffic engineer and a registered civil engineer in the state of California. I was asked by Republic to conduct a vehicle miles traveled comparison between the two entities. You've probably heard a lot about vehicle miles traveled in the last year and a half, 2 years. It's a sea change in my industry. It's state mandated. The days are gone in CEQA of looking at intersection delay and how long people wait at intersections, and it's all about vehicle miles traveled. We analyzed 4 different sets of truck trips for this type of project: the municipal solid waste, recycled materials, the residential green/food waste, and the commercial green/food waste. We used the same number of trips, the same number of trucks for the comparison, but we took into account the very different destinations of the two sets on the different sets of waste. We use Google Maps to do the distance, and it becomes very simple math at the end of the day. The vehicle miles traveled per day for the Republic proposal is some 4,200 less per day. And on an annual basis, just multiplying that number by the number of days these trucks are out on the roads is about 1.1 million less per year vehicle miles traveled. Over a 10-year period, that would be about 11 million less, and over a 15-year period, that'd be about 17 million less. Those numbers are hard to get our arms around. I get that. 11 million vehicle miles traveled savings is equivalent to going around the world once a day, every day for some 400 days for over a year. So certainly a very different, they're very different proposals in terms of vehicle miles traveled. I'm here to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Scott Barnett, to be followed by Daniel Butler.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and City Council. My name is Scott Barnett. I'm president of San Diego County Taxpayers Advocate. We're in the process of reviewing several solid waste systems in a couple of large and several small cities within the region, and it's serendipitous that you all happen to be reviewing your franchise at this time. Over the last 30 years, I have had a lot of involvement in solid waste issues. Back when I was in the Del Mar City Council, approving the franchise there, when I ran the San Diego County Taxpayers Association, working with the county to outsource and sell their solid waste system, which avoided bankruptcy for the county. And more recently, as a member of the San Diego Unified School Board, I urged my colleagues to bid out a contract that had not been reviewed for 30 years and ended up awarding it to EDCO, and it had much stronger environmental protections and recycling and so forth. So today, the key question I have is, why is the City Council seemingly rushing into a franchise agreement with Waste Management when it may not be the best deal for ratepayers? The November 10th report done by county staff, and it was excellent work, by the way, it was a clear comparison between the proposals of Waste Management and Republic Services, and the data and the facts demonstrated that Republic Services outscored Waste Management in key criteria, including costs. Republic Services were lower, capital investment and purchasing trash trucks. Republic is proposing investing $10 million more than Waste Management. Level of service, Republic proposes more routes and significantly more trucks. Number of exceptions to the RFP. Waste Management ended up asking for 31 exceptions to the RFP, and Republic asked for none, ultimately. Despite this overwhelming data, the City Council inexplicably approved going ahead with Waste Management, and no reasons were offered that I saw in reviewing the meeting. So which proposal is best for the ratepayers? The only way to determine that is to have staff go back and have the same discussion with Republic and see if they can revise their proposal to continue to be a better deal for ratepayers in San Diego. Thank you very much. Our statement was submitted to the clerk, and thank you very much. Have a good day.
Daniel Butler?
Honorable Mayor, members of council, thanks for having me. I know I only got a few minutes. I just want to reiterate the motion on the floor from November 10th was to have staff negotiate with Waste Management and Waste Management alone to amend and extend this agreement to be in compliance with SB 1383. I'm really excited that Republic got the jet, brought everyone down today. Happy to see Scott and John join us in Oceanside for the first time. Pretty exciting. Just want to make sure we all know why we're here, is to respond to the motion on the floor in November. I also want to reiterate that Waste Management and Agri-Service have a executed agreement for processing organics that has been vetted by both city staff, Waste Management, and Agri-Service, and we're ready to go. Simple as that. Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes the speakers on this item.
Thank you. Did staff want to add anything else before we go to the, you'll just be here for questions, or do you have some? Yes. No? Okay. All right, back to the council. Councilmember Rodriguez.
Ms. Dale, can you elaborate on that last statement from Mr. Butler with respect to the agreement? From my understanding, as of yesterday, that had not, Agri-Service had not agreed to accept digested food waste from the city. Can you respond to that, please?
Councilmember Rodriguez, honorable council members, I'm going to have Rob or Colleen respond to that.
And I'm on a time limit, so if you can be short,
Understood.
please.
We do have a signed agreement. There are two minor issues, one definitional and one including that digestate, that are not in the written agreement. We hope that we can get there on both.
Okay. Number one, in order for me to get on board with anything, those two dynamics that were just referenced must be in that contract, period. I have another question for Waste Management. Come on up, Mr. Butler. Following the latest amendment, which was signed September 2019, Waste Management was contractually obligated to complete a customer service review. The review allows a third party to review calls, complaints, and service records. Waste Management has stated that due to privacy issues, they won't allow it. However, we've confirmed that these same types of customer service reviews have been done for other waste management service areas in the state. This was a contract term. However, the contract also contained no liquidated damages to hold Waste Management accountable to do this review. Are you going to allow the customer service review process for Oceanside residents?
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason why that review wasn't able to move forward is, for the contract, the terms had to be amenable by both sides, and we weren't able to come to agreement on how to move forward with that. The privacy concerns are sort of a gray area when you talk about the information that we do provide.
So from my perspective, this is my opinion, my perspective, Waste Management's customer service has sucked. And you need to up the game, and in order for us to get on board, we need some sort of accountability in the form of liquidated damages if you don't do your part for the taxpayers of Oceanside, which they're about to spend a lot of money for whoever they decide. We expect, as the elected body, the highest customer service possible. So for me to get on board, I want you to work with staff respectively and do everything in your power to give the city some sort of accountability measures that we can hold you accountable if you're not doing your job and providing the best service to our taxpayers.
Yeah, and I don't disagree whatsoever. And I make myself available to all members of the council and Madam Mayor at any time to call me directly as well. Our customer service team provides the service to the utmost ability that they have. And we are dedicating 2 reps specifically to Oceanside with this new contract to be available 2 more hours past normal operating hours to assure that that is available to our residents and our business.
What is your standard resolution time for resolving customer complaints?
It should be within 24 hours.
Within 24 hours?
Yes, sir.
I have a question for staff and HF&F. What sort of protections or fail-safes are in the current contract to ensure good customer service for the Oceanside community?
We do have a number of performance standards around customer call center responsiveness, response times, and tracking around those failures. The liquidated damage amounts per failure have come down from what was proposed by the city in the resolved language with Waste Management. In the proposed contract, yes.
Okay, so they've reduced the penalty, so to speak. Okay, how does staff feel about those reductions? Do you think they can come up, or are you satisfied with those reductions?
They're less than the industry standard.
Okay, to get on board, I want to see them at industry standards. I think that's a reasonable expectation for the amount of contract that we're trying to approve here today. And then lastly, can you speak to the types of customer service issues you have been managing in the past few months and how long Waste Management has been taking to resolve those? Because I just heard them say 24 hours, but I want some tangible examples that staff has experienced in the last 90 days.
Good afternoon, Councilmember Rodriguez. We do have various ways in which we've monitored the complaints that have come in. We have, over the past several years, have had significant customer service issues and failures. In particular, we did a recent review of emails since 2018. We had over 1,700 elevated complaint emails. The majority of those complaints are customers that have called Waste Management once for miscollection, try to get it resolved, the miscollection or the issue wasn't resolved, called again, called multiple times, and then is eventually getting to the city. In addition to that, on average, we have between 8 to 11 calls a day of elevated complaints. That's between billing staff as well as the solid waste and recycling team. The customer service issues have been going on prior to COVID, which is why we tried to implement the customer service performance review in the 2019 amendment. So it is something that in 2019, Waste Management, the city acknowledged that was an issue and that we both wanted to work on collaboratively, but we still have issues.
So there's still issues that need to be resolved, and I mean, this is about Oceanside residents. If they have needs, if they have concerns, they need to be resolved, and I want to make sure that there's consequences if they're not, so we can hold Waste Management accountable. I would look forward to hearing what my colleagues have to say.
Anyone else wish to speak on the council? Deputy Mayor Kime.
I just have a couple quick questions. Picking up where I left off last time, they'll mostly be for Mr. Hilton. I am a little concerned when I get this overview of service costs. I'd asked from the start to break down, we spent most of the page talking about, 1.3, 1.4 million in additional services, but just one line for the base proposal, which is going up 10 million a year. And that's, I'm sure it makes sense. I just, how many times I've asked, I'm still not getting a breakdown of why it's going up. So I'm going to just focus on two things because I asked them last time, so I'm sure that, that was in November, so we have answers now. In the technical proposal for base proposal, J, as I asked last time, public education outreach plan. How much are we spending in the base proposal for public and education outreach plan?
$200,000 a year.
$200,000 a year, and is that just straight to the to Waste Management?
Yes, this Waste Management's budget obligation for education.
Okay, so how much are we paying HF&H a year for that?
None for public education.
Okay, or outreach?
We are not doing any outreach under our current scope, no.
Okay, is there a plan to expand the scope? Do you have that? Has that been discussed with staff?
I understand there was an RFP issued that included that. I understand that's been withdrawn and is going to be reformatted and reissued.
Okay, and then internally with staff, how much are we spending with our staff on education outreach ballpark? And this is what I was hoping to get earlier, is just inside that base proposal, what are the increases we're paying for? And that's the part that's still murky.
Deputy Mayor Keim, we are not spending any education outreach dollars with HF&H consultants. We do have contracts with NV5. They do various education and outreach services for the Green Oceanside program, including solid waste. That's approximately $50,000. Currently, the majority of our education outreach is internalized. For example, my team, we write our content for Tide, KOCT outreach, social media. We have partnerships with Main Street, Oceanside, and the Chamber of Commerce to provide education outreach. And then we do billing inserts, but that's done internally.
Okay, and so those were, and I'm using this just as an example because those are the kind of clarifications that I'd hoped to get earlier. I want to ask a couple questions again to Mr. Hilton. Again, as I asked last time, do we have the largest contract with you in the state?
No, sir. I've looked at this since your last question. You are our 8th largest client over the last 5 years.
Okay, so going forward, right now how long have you had your contract with us?
This current contract since 2019.
Okay. Roughly how much a year?
A couple of $100,000, and we usually spend less than the budget amount.
Okay, so because we paid about $1 million so far, right?
To HF&H?
Yeah.
No, it's been less than that. Less than $1 million.
Okay, so maybe 900,000. I think that's what it was because we had about 400,000 a year. If it's just been 2 years.
Well, there was the organics feasibility study that was in 2017 and 18 before this contract under a separate contract.
Okay. Are you going to continue to work with us going forward every year? Or how's that look going forward, a future relationship? Is it just for
what the city would like to do?
Okay. Ms. Foster, do we have a plan? Have we discussed that? Are we going to pay HF&H a few $100,000 every year?
We have a remainder amount on the existing agreement for approximately $350,000 to be used until completed. We did issue an RFP a year ago, and we have not awarded that, and we are looking at reissuing that RFP.
Okay,
So at this point, we do not have direction on whether we will continue to do it in the same way or use HF&H in the same way.
Okay, is that so? Because it was going to come to council. Is that 300,000 from that initial roughly million or 900,000, or is that out of the 1.5 million that was planned on being asked for?
That was out of the original contract.
Okay, so we haven't gotten into anything above that contract, correct? Okay. And one more question for staff. Have we been, we had clear direction in November. Have we been negotiating with Republic outside of that workshop at all? Okay.
No.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councilmember Weiss?
Thank you. I have just a couple questions. In the, on your chart in the base proposal, I'm presuming it includes services that are outside of what was in the RFP at base proposals, but were included in the alternative services, just because it just appears that way. But one of the things that I didn't see addressed is servicing storm drain trash capture device filters. Where is that now?
Councilmember Weiss, that is contained in the watershed protection fee. There's a transfer from the water fund that goes to the watershed protection for those types of services. It's been changed in the last couple of years and restructured.
So there's not a separate line item for one of the alternative services for servicing storm drains. So somewhere in watershed protection, it's going to include servicing storm drains.
Yes.
Do we have to, is there a little wheel we spin to see how much?
I'm sorry?
Is there a little wheel we spin, like Wheel of Fortune, to see how much money's allocated within there for those things?
It's what's in there now is what's transferred currently for the cost of the program, including services in the water utilities department, and I think we've just put an escalator on there for the future costs.
Okay, thank you. I do have a question for waste management. And it's kind of along the lines of Deputy Mayor Kimes' question. In your proposal, you had one of the requirements for the base proposal was public education and outreach. And I heard that you're budgeting $200,000 for that. Do you know what the total cost is? Not just the $200,000, I'm presuming, which is educational materials. I don't know. What is included in that $200,000? How much is there? Bodies included in there, or is this just brochures, stickers, and pamphlets?
To Councilmember Wise, thank you. That, to use your term, it is brochures, printing, distribution, anything along those lines. The bodies are not included in that budget. From what I understand, and I may misunderstand on the budget side how it relates to our RFP process and what the city staff is telling you, we were to allocate $400,000 year one and then $300,000 year two plus CPI beyond that. So I don't know how that changes, but that amount is based upon printing, distribution, and the amount of customers that we are sending that material to.
So is that the total cost for education outreach, or are you adding people for that as well?
The request from city staff was to add 3 dedicated members from our company to, like I said, be dedicated to the city full-time. That equates to what we've described to the city as 10 cents per home. So every member that is full-time on that side, those three full-timers is basically 30 cents to the rate.
So the 3 full-time equivalents is above and beyond the $400,000 in year one?
It's separate, correct.
Okay, thank you. So part of what we're here for is to give direction to return with the final franchise agreement. I'm comfortable with the textile program not being here. My biggest concern is people, depending on what part of the city you're in, putting t-shirts, jeans, and jackets in bags, putting it out on the sidewalk, and I can guarantee that it won't be there in the morning to be picked up. It'll be down getting worn by other people. I have my own issues with the total cost of what's in the being presented to us, and it's primarily along the lines of the portions of, and it's not in regards to the hauling contract. It's in regards to what's going to the city, to the general fund, and to the water, sewer, solid waste enterprise. There are numbers in here, just kind of what I pointed out, that have escalated, some have decreased, but there's not one mention in the staff report of where those monies are going and what they're being allocated toward. So I'm comfortable with coming back with a final agreement for hauling, but all of these other costs, at some point, I would like staff to break them down to show what is included in each one of these. So that we have some level of transparency, not just with the council, but for the community, so they know why city services is going up $200,000 a year. What's the reason for that? What do the city services cost? Why are they going up? Why is the watershed protection going up? What's included in the nose fees? Where the monies come from now, and where they're going to go when that comes forward. I'd like to see that separate from just being hidden in the budget. But other than that, those are my comments.
Thank you, Councilmember Jensen.
Yes, I had some questions regarding the subcontract with Agri-Service, and I'd like to hear from Agri-Service.
Hello. Happy to answer any questions.
Yes, is your agreement with Waste Management satisfactory? Are you guys good to go?
We've been working on the agreement for several months, and I think we've all come to an understanding of what needs to be done, and we've agreed to it.
Okay. Is there any direction we need to give staff for your contract or?
Well, we currently have an operating agreement and a lease agreement with the city. We haven't been very involved in this process. We think that the operating agreement, we've been told that staff is intending to dissolve the operating agreement. I'm a little bit confused about timelines because there really isn't anything to prevent us from moving forward on complying with 1383 by doing curbside food waste before 2024. So I've been out of the discussions and don't really understand why we're waiting 2 years for that. But the operating agreement that we have right now, our lease is an addendum to the operating agreement. So we're not sure how if we dissolve the operating agreement, how that affects things. But the other thing is that in that operating agreement, we have a schedule of fees, and upon adding additional feedstocks, those were going to be adjusted. But I think more importantly is in this procurement. Right now, there's I think really easy ways for us to use our operating agreement and using the format that was set up in the compost giveaway, where there's currently $125,000 of material that the city is entitled to that goes more than 20% of the way to meeting those procurement requirements. And I think with a little bit of ingenuity and cooperation with staff, that we could come up with a way of getting really close to 80%, if not more, of that procurement without having to spend extra money and making the city come out looking like a winner. So, but we'd love to have those discussions. We'd love to have that conversation. But as far as the actual subcontract goes, we're fine. Thank you so much, Councilmember Jensen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Rodriguez, before you speak, I'd like to go ahead and say a few words here. There is probably nothing more important and more critical in terms of conversations with businesses and with the community than a clean Oceanside. I can't tell you how often we get emails and calls regarding encampments, trash not being picked up as often as necessary, and I mean just a lot of that. And my concern is that this contract proposes less service than we have now, and we actually need more. For example, quarterly cleanup event services, staff has indicated that they're not trained in picking up large items and trash and all that. And while that is going to be in the current contract, new contract will be without waste management staffing, and that does concern me. First of all, because it's still going to be a cost to the city, so it's not really a cost reduction. So shouldn't we use trained people rather than? And this is something we just talked about internally about workers' comp cases still being a problem for us. So here we are, we're actually intentionally getting into a contract and talking about using Oceanside employees who are not trained to do that. Waste management provides containers and third-party crews to remove litter, illegal dumping, and debris. That's eliminated. Is that eliminating our ability to clean out encampments, just trash whenever someone says, okay, there's a whole lot of trash here, probably because it was an encampment. That's a big concern. It seems to me that that's a reduction. Education and outreach, thank you for bringing that up. Was that Deputy Mayor Keim, I think? I am so concerned that we're not having that done right now with our commercial users. And that we're not in compliance. We're actually in the period, in a period that it's like they're giving us a grace period. We have been out of compliance. And what is not happening right now is that education and outreach, and that should be done by our waste hauler contract, current waste hauler contract, and it's not being done. It's not, I think the questions were, is somebody doing it? Is our consultant doing it? Is staff doing it? And the answer is no. But who is going to be held liable for this? Who is, whose name is it? It's the city of Oceanside. Whatever doesn't happen by our waste hauler, through our waste hauler contract, it's the city that's going to be held liable for not being in compliance with 1383. I am still concerned about the exceptions that we're not really getting. I think Councilmember Rodriguez mentioned that. I don't understand why we don't just come out and say we're going to have new carts, because, I mean, I know I've had one exchange because the wheel came off. Another one, the lid is just about ready to come off. I mean, it is obvious that in the next 10 years, everyone is going to have a new cart or two or three. So right now, my green waste is, it's just ready to fall apart. So I don't understand why we don't actually include that. It's going to happen. So the only thing that we're saving is looking like up front, but it's actually a cost of the whole contract. Staff has asked us to give direction with respect to the contract, and I do want to do that. Containers for illegal dumping, yes. Donation and landfill weeks, yes. The infrastructure for food waste at the at the San Luis treatment plant, SB 1383 requires that. So I believe we need to do that. We need to give direction to that. Of course, the transition to contractor billing, all the things that we're talking about here is going to probably add to the contract. And let me just say the second other thing that's really, I said one, which was that our community really wants to be clean and complains about it when it's not. When they see it, they call us, right? I'm sure every one of us gets a daily call, right? At least 2, 3. Hey, there's there's trash over here. So the other one is our community really wants to keep the composting for agri-service, and I am not convinced that waste management, contract with waste management, is actually going to get us there, because we don't have the capacity, the infrastructure to be able to do that locally and be able to continue this having compost and mulching here locally. What I see, though, is that we do have a company that could do this and more, and actually give us savings. In comparing these two, which is Republic and Waste Management, we still get a much better deal for the city of Oceanside. And I don't understand why we jumped the gun so quickly at the last hearing. I also was kind of surprised, because I felt that we should have been continuing to discuss, because it is the best, for the best interest of our residents, that we have to be making decisions. And it's a 10 to 15-year contract, and so of course I don't want to rush into this. So I would want to actually go back, direct staff to go back to both of these and get the best contract. We're dissecting today. I learned even more about what we're talking about. I took a few. I went to a few WasteCon and all of those kind of conventions, conferences, to learn about zero waste. I don't think that that 40% diversion is not acceptable. And bottom line is that it's going to be Cal Recycle that decides whether or not agri-service is acceptable. If they decide no, then I understand the backup is for our trash, our green waste, our organics, to go to Tulare, which is what? Is that 400? Is it 400 miles away? I'm sorry, how is it? It's 800 miles round trip. So I think that in the long run, the vehicles the VMTs, I'm concerned about. So that would be my my direction, my concern, and basically, let's get back to really trying to talk about getting the best, keeping agri-service in business, in the business model that they already have, and ensuring, and I'm hearing Republic saying, we will commit to getting that to agri-service, which will then be providing a service to the citizens of Oceanside. Councilmember Rodriguez.
How long do I have, first of all?
About 3:41.
Oh, okay. Dang. More than I thought. Okay. I would just like to agree with the mayor with respect to, I'm a capitalist. I'm a small business owner. I think competition is healthy. There's the only one who wins in the end is the Oceanside taxpayer when two businesses are competing. So I am all for competing. I think, Republic's perfectly capable of trying to match a proposal or come in with the best of the best. And I think it's going to hold Waste Management's feet to the fire to really work with our city to get the exact terms we demand for Oceanside residents. And so I would definitely support that. I think it's healthy, and then in the end, the council can make a final decision all at once. And hopefully my colleagues can get on board with something like that. When I first got elected, I met with staff, including code enforcement, and I got a stack of paper this high of subcontracted homeless encampment pickups and trash abatement. What enterprise account does that fall under when we're billed for all those tons of waste that are cleaned up? Is that under a contract under the utilities, or is that under the general fund?
Councilmember Rodriguez, the general fund has the contract to pay for encampment details. That is separate from the enterprise fund.
Okay, is that how it's supposed to be by law? Why isn't that under the same umbrella? I mean, trash pickup is trash pickup. How is that separated?
So there are some costs that go to support code enforcement regarding trash.
Okay.
But my understanding is the contract that we had to specifically clean up encampment details was not funded from the enterprise fund.
Yeah, because we're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on those sort of pickups from my review. And so, I would really like to see that tried to be negotiated under this umbrella versus coming out of the general fund, because that's like a double hit on us. So that's something I would like to discuss further, or maybe you guys can come back with that. And then I would like Mary to come up, because I want to clarify, because there's still this missing dynamic. I only got one part from Waste Management, some conflicting information from city staff, and I guess we'll get the official answer from Mary. I have a specific question, if you can please come up. Are you willing to accept digested food waste from the city so that it can be incorporated into your product?
So we are permitted to do that. We have had no conversations with the city about it. So
the city's asking now, I'm asking you, are you willing to accept?
I would have to, I don't know exactly what they're talking about.
Ms. Dale, can you please elaborate on that?
The city has not asked me anything about that in the past.
And we've been going through Waste Management, so this would be a negotiation between Waste Management and you, but we're talking about food waste that's been digested at a wastewater treatment facility and then dewatered and then transported back.
So is it mixed with biosolids?
No.
Okay, so it's a completely separate operation. We're fully permitted to take that. It falls within our water board permits and our solid waste permits.
Okay, very good. So what I'm hearing is if based on this, you would agree to include this provision in the contract between you and Waste Management or whatever vendor we decide on.
It is a permitted feedstock.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you so much for that. What is the deadline for finalizing this contract before we suffer some sort of penalties from the state on this? Does staff know that date?
There is not currently a deadline per se. We will be providing our initial compliance report in April. We'll be given an update on where we're at with the procurement.
Okay. All right, I have no further comments. I would like staff maybe to weigh in if there's any clarification from the council. I know you guys have received a lot of input, but if there's any other clarifications you need. But again, I would like to support the mayor's recommendation of negotiating with both. I think it's very healthy for getting the best outcome.
I believe that there are 5 services that we would like direction on, and I'll bring them up one at a time, and maybe an individual vote on each would be helpful. The first is the donation and landfill weeks, which has an annual cost of $80,000. It's 7 cents on a residential bill per month.
Yes.
The second one is the infrastructure for food waste at San Luis Rey Water Reclamation Facility. This is a $5 million payment to the utility, which would be combined with grant funding as well as other ratepayer funding to construct a receiving station to digest the food waste that we just discussed with Mary. It is a 54-cent hit on a customer bill. We do have reserves in the amount of $5.5 million that could be used in place of this, should you not decide to move forward.
Yes.
You do want it?
Yes.
Mayor, may I make a comment? I think this would be, we could have a streamlined approach to this. In one motion.
Let's just listen to her and get this through. Go ahead, and then I'll call you.
Did I hear a yes to
Yes.
keep that in there? Okay. The additional service of curbside household hazardous waste pickup for seniors and ADA at a cost of 4 cents per month.
Yes.
Okay. Vacation rental kits at a cost of 19 cents per month.
This is more for vacation rental. Is there a way of having that a separate cost for those that are doing that?
Mayor Sanchez. We can evaluate if
possible or
the
not. That would.
We can evaluate the separate cost. I believe we did an evaluation. Unfortunately, I don't have the number on me. It was somewhat cost prohibitive. And it's also that we would provide it as people go in and out. We'd work with Visit Oceanside and Main Street. It's a similar program we provide for multifamily, but this would be focused on the tourism community to mitigate litter.
So this is something that you do, that multifamily is also, it's not just vacation rentals.
Multifamily receives these in the base proposal. This would be an addition.
Okay, I guess I'll say yes.
And the last one is textile donation and recycling at a cost of 23 cents per customer, and this was not recommended by staff.
No.
Okay.
Okay, and actually it was Councilmember Jensen who was next. Oh, did you have anything else?
We also need direction on the length of term you'd like to see. There's a 10-year or 15-year term.
10.
And then direction on negotiating with both parties or one party.
Yes. It's competition that should get us a much better deal for our community.
When did you start the RFP and negotiation process? How long ago?
The RFP was issued in December of 2020. The proposals were received in March of 2021.
I'm comfortable with coming back with the final agreement.
When I can speak.
Yeah, right. And as I understand it, it was continued to give Waste Management more time because they needed more time. It was extended for how long? Was it 6 months? 2 months, okay. Councilmember Jensen? 2? No. The question is, do you wish to have continued negotiations with both of them? Or just waste management?
I wasn't anticipating a discussion with both. I thought we were dealing with waste management, and we had already come to that conclusion.
I think this would also help agri-service if we got the best deal.
Let me clarify.
agri-service.
We do have a negotiated agreement already with Republic. We were asked to negotiate with Waste Management to negotiate through the issues that were still not where we were not in agreement. This is an opportunity to, bid them against each other and really get the best price for the city.
Yeah. And also for agri-service.
Mayor, may I please?
No, we're still waiting for the,
Her light wasn't on.
yeah, her, yes, it is, but she's responding to the question.
Okay. My concern is everything that's gone on in, starting December 15th with everything that everybody already knows with Republic. And I'm just not comfortable with that. And I don't want to put Oceanside in a situation where we could lose service for a month. So
we're not losing service. We're still in a contract, right?
I'm sorry, you're looking at me. What was the question?
We're still in the contract, the current contract.
With Waste
We still have the
Management.
contract.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think the question earlier was, should we continue to negotiate with Republic, and we're not negotiating with Republic? I think that question was raised earlier, so I just wanted to clarify that.
I know, but I'm wanting to make a motion on behalf of the residents of Oceanside that staff compete both these vendors so we achieve the highest and best outcome for our decision. And by eliminating one over the other, we are not achieving that. That's a fact. We have nothing to lose by competing these guys.
Point of order. May I please?
Right, okay, just a second. I'll go ahead and second that. Deputy Mayor Keim.
I don't think I've ever seen something quite like this. I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion for, we just selected the program options for a 10-year deal and direct staff to return with the final franchise agreement for approval with Waste Management. That's what we've asked them to do. That's who they've been negotiating with. We're getting sidetracked here. So that's my motion. Apparently, there's a motion that preceded that, but that's my motion.
Right, and I guess I had basically moved to do this earlier, and Councilmember Rodriguez had actually agreed to that, so we were just, well, there's a motion. There's a motion and a second. Councilmember Rodriguez, and then we'll vote.
Yeah, I just think it's important for the taxpayers of Oceanside to see how we vote on this. And do we want to compete for the best or just go full speed ahead with something that obviously hasn't been working out directly with staff?
And my biggest concern here, and I think I still have about 2 minutes, is that we could lose agri-service. That's the bottom line. Because we have local organics recycling at OTI. If agri-service is not acceptable, and it's not going to be our decision, it's going to be Cal Recycle. They'll say, no, if you don't want to accept contaminated paper, meat, dairy products, bones, all of these things, if you're not equipped to do that, which, this is an ongoing negotiations, those are huge investments in infrastructure. They'd have to go to Tulare, and we will lose this valuable service. So if they are both in the picture, we will actually have a better chance of making that happen. Because, I don't know if you heard, Agri-Service said, Republic said they're willing to give Agri-Service, once they go to the organics recycling here in OTI, which is much closer, they're willing to work with Agri-Service and come up with a contract where they will get their product that they already have their business model based on. And their business model is based on providing a service to our farms. So I hope you will agree to, at least at this point, negotiate with both of them so that we will get the best contract for the citizens of Oceanside, as well as make sure that we do continue with this service in the city of Oceanside. And it's okay. Please vote.
So I just want to make sure, we're voting on your motion to have to.
Yes.
To negotiate with both. Okay.
Please vote.
Motion fails 2-3. Keim, Jensen, Weiss, no.
Okay. Councilmember Weiss.
I just want to highlight that in November, when we were here, we were presented with pick one.
We picked one.
There was competition. In November, we were asked to pick one. There was a competition process. For whatever reason, we said negotiate with Waste Management. I will second Deputy Mayor's motion.
Motion and a second.
Okay. I think we've already given directions to staff, but go ahead. Let's vote on this motion.
Motion approved, 3-2. Sanchez, Rodriguez, no.
Thank you. We're on item number 2, and that is public communications on city matters off agenda. Do we have any requests to speak?
We have no request to speak on this item.
Great, thank you. So we're going to go ahead and adjourn this meeting, this workshop, to the next meeting, which is a regularly scheduled meeting of the City Council on February 9th, 3:30 p.m. Thank you.